Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Skyton's Property Channel. Today's episode is slightly different. It's about the latest updates in the Singapore property market because there have been a few changes recently. And I wanted to share with everybody so that everybody can best tap on the opportunities that are in front of them. So today I'm about to talk about a couple of new changes and a couple of trends that have been existing that is still ongoing. Number one, I'll talk about how the HDB market, the resale market, is still increasing, hence still lifting the entire market up because they're right at the bottom, they're the foundation. Number two, there have been some changes in the primary school balloting process. Number three, both the first two changes actually caused additional price increase in the OCR condos. They have also caused indirectly new rental highs that are appearing on the market right now. And lastly, I'd like to talk about a couple of possible new laws that could come into the market that the government may explore to handle this current buoyant property market. Okay, so the first one that I would like to talk about is actually the HDB market. HDB resale market is still the fastest way, the cheapest way, and the most well-known way for most Singaporeans and PRs to own a home in Singapore, right? So they have been growing double-digit growth all the way for 5 straight quarters. That's 15 months. Prices have risen a lot higher. They're almost reaching an all-time high for HDB resale market. However, this trend actually, is it sustainable? I would say that it's sustainable because for at least the next year or so, because they're generating this group of sellers called the sandwich sellers. As you all may recall, there are about 50,000 plus units that hit their 5-year MOP last and this year, right? So among these 50,000 units, there's about 13,000 of them have sold already, right? So this 13,000 of sellers, I will call them the sandwich sellers, simply because they sold at a fantastic price. They're sitting on a good amount of profit. But this investment that they sold is also their home. They still need a place to stay at the end of the day, right? So they're split into roughly 3 groups. The first group are those that take their profit, want to buy a smaller resale flat or older resale flat at a lower price, took the money and put in their pocket. Okay, that's the first group. So the first group actually continued to push the resale flat prices up. In fact, they pushed the older flat prices up and in turn pushed the newer flat prices up as well, because newer flats are usually priced more expensive than the older flats. Once the older flats goes up, the newer one goes up as well. Second group will be those who took the money in their pocket, went out, buy one condo in the wife's name, buy one condo in the husband's name, hence pushing the OCR condo prices up, right? The third group of sellers, they have sold. They have not been able to see what is great in the market that is worth their time. They took the profit, but now they are unable to buy. They are either priced out or they cannot see a unit that they like. Hence, they went out to rent, hoping that the market will change someday or a unit will pop up someday for them. So they actually caused the rental market to be very buoyant right now, to be increased in prices quite significantly. So just one group of sellers, 13,000 of them, these sandwich sellers have continued to push the HDB resale market up, push the OCR condo market up, and also push the rental market up. It's really, really quite impressive. That's why I would say that this situation will probably last for another year or so until HDB resale prices becoming that unaffordable, right? So if you're a seller, if you're already intending to sell, you already have an intention to move, please continue to sell since you get great, you're probably sitting on a very, very great profit right now. If you're a buyer, you're probably buying at near an all-time high right now. In fact, prices have never been this high since 2013, which was the last all-time high. And we are approaching that mark very, very soon. If you're looking to buy and you are very sure you see a unit you like, you want to go ahead with it, please go ahead, but do not look at this as an investment. Be very, very sure that you want to stay in this particular house for a very long time, because this house most likely will not make significant amount of money for you. In fact, you'll most likely have the opportunity of losing money. Second change I want to talk about are the primary school changes. So basically, the MOE has changed the way that kids get admitted into primary schools. So now being an alumni or being a staff or being affiliated with the school through the religious organizations or through the associations are less important right now. Distance to the school matters more, right? This caused home sales and rental in these nearby famous schools to increase a lot. So you see towns in Marine Parade, towns in East Coast, towns in Bishan, towns like Clementi, for example, all these in OCR regions, RCR regions, have been increasing quite quickly, right? Less negotiations are happening. Any listings that appear on the market, they are being pushed out quite quickly. So in turn, both the buoyant HDB resale market and the primary school changes have caused an increase in OCR condo prices. OCR condos are now the hottest items on the market, right? Previously, when Singaporeans voted travel, that means distance to the MRT is the number one priority when they choose a house. Now, the priority for Singaporeans would be size, would be prices, would be distance to the primary schools, right? Hence, resale condos are really coming back big time. Resale HDB OCR condos are really coming back big time. New launch OCR condos are really coming back big time, simply because people actually desire to live at your Sengkangs and your Marine Parades, at your Bishans and your Clementis more than living at Newton or Novena, for example, right? Simply because OCR condos are still seen as the most affordable condos that people can still move into. They tend to be the largest condos available at the price range, number two. Number three, OCR condos are also near schools and amenities, which really play an important part in this COVID era. Hence, this is being seen as a long-term trend as long as work from home stays. And work from home potentially can stay even after COVID. Hence, these buyers, when they look at when they look at an OCR condo, they're starting to see that there's a lot of things that tick the boxes for them personally. Plus, they can see that a lot of other people are taking their way of thinking as well. Hence, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy for OCR condos that OCR condos are desirable. OCR condos are worth my time purchasing because more and more people are desiring it as well. So it potentially can still appreciate. And you must also remember that OCR condos, another advantage that they have is that they tend to be quite close to the place where the buyer grew up or where the buyer's family still is. So even from the investment angle, it does not work out for them. Let's say 5 years down the road, 7 years down the road, OCR condo prices start dropping. This trend, work from home, does not exist anymore. These buyers will probably still not regret their choices simply because they view that living at the hometown that they grew up in, with schools that they're familiar with amenities that they're familiar with family and friends that they're familiar with, was worth their time purchasing it today. So resale prices in OCR would continue to sustain. If you are a seller right now, sell if you already intend to move out of your OCR condo. Okay, you'll probably get a very good price for it. Another situation is that if you have two names tied up to one condo in an OCR region and you can afford to buy two condos instead, you might want to sell your current condo, split the names up and buy two different condos instead to tap on this buoyant property market. And if you're a buyer, try to buy undervalued homes here. One great undervalued homes that you can look upon is those 5-year to 10-year ECs, XECs as they call them. These tend to be one of the largest condos around the area. They tend to be about 10-15% cheaper than their neighbors. Number two, they give you a unique advantage because only Singaporean and PRs can buy them. And because of these factors, not a lot of them are available on the market for sale. If you see units that are available that tick some of the boxes, most of the boxes, don't get too picky, go ahead and buy. Okay, because there are a lot of buyers looking at OCR right now. And this can still give you a 10-15% discount. And if you go for a new launch, you can probably still fetch certain good units with good facing if you prefer that instead. Fourth thing that I want to look upon is about new rental highs. So new rental highs are basically caused by those, as I mentioned before, sandwiched by the HDB resale, the sandwich sellers. These sandwich sellers are priced out the house they want. They are priced out all the most basic houses. So they have no choice but to rent and pray that the property market somehow turn to their way. Another reason why rental has been increasing, this has been very perplexing to many people, saying that, hey, in Singapore, the population has not increased a lot, right? Why did during the pandemic, why are property prices increasing then? It's also because of the pandemic. Pandemic caused a lot more time for the family members to stay together, and a lot of the younger Singaporeans cannot take staying with their parents for such a long period of time. So a lot of them went out to rent a unit instead, right? And because of work from home, because they shifted out from the family home because of work from home, those that got sandwiched by the HDB resale, the sandwich sellers are used to larger homes. So all of this group of people want to take entire units out there. They want to take bigger units out there. So you notice that all the bigger units, regardless whether they're newer or older, they all become very attractive to the renters. And all of them are starting to rent faster and rent larger units. I think that this trend will be quite sustainable for the next 1 or 2 years as all the different impacts start coming in. And it will just serve as a further catalyst for people to buy older and larger resale properties. The last one I'd like to talk about is my own guess, okay? How I think the government will react to this buoyant market and how they can try to control the buoyant market to help the buyers and sellers, right? So I don't expect a cooling measure per se. I expect some form of vacant tax instead. I will explain to you why I suspect a vacant tax will occur instead later on. All right. The government may also explore some form of cut on the HDB grants simply because the HDB resale market is the one lifting the entire market up. They are the lowest, the most affordable form of housing in Singapore. And if they keep increasing in prices, the rest of the market will continue to increase in prices as well. So the government may implement some form of a cut on these HDB grants to cool the market a little without directly hurting the people. And lastly, I think the government will continue to increase some form of wages in Singapore to counter inflation. Right? For example, recently they just increased the minimum wage in Singapore to $1,400 for those who hired foreigners. But as we know that most firms in Singapore hire foreigners, so this $1,400 is really just a minimum wage in Singapore now, right? This is an easier way to give people more money to counter rising property prices rather than increasing tax and making everybody unhappy. Why do I talk about vacant tax as a possibility in Singapore? So these are just some data, raw data I put around the market. Last year in 2020, there are about 327,000 condo units in Singapore, right? Apartments, what have you. URA says that among these 327,000 of them, 6.4% of them are vacant. And when I went to Property Guru, the largest property search website in Singapore, there are about 11,828 units available for rent, full units available for rent. So let's just do a bit of a simple math. If 327,000, 6.4% of them are vacant, there are 20,900 units that are vacant, right? Of which only 11,800 units are available for rent. This means more than 9,000 units in Singapore are vacant and they are not on the market, right? 9,000 units, it's a very significant supply, actually. You can supply the Singapore property market for probably over an entire year, actually. So basically, if the government can encourage these 9,000 units to go onto the market for sale or for rent, this will increase the supply quite significantly. Don't forget, the entire property market is actually still caused by a global supply crisis, lack of construction materials, increasing shipping costs so that all these materials still cannot come to Singapore, and lack of manpower. So this is a worldwide problem, as I mentioned before, and it's getting worse. If you have 9,000 units sitting at the back of your inventory that you can take out anytime, right? You need to encourage these 9,000 units to come onto the market. Then wouldn't that be fantastic? That will actually increase the supply by quite a bit and will help a lot of renters, a lot of buyers find a home that they can afford and can taper down the property market a bit. So I believe that the cooling measure that could possibly come will not be come in the form of tax. directed at buyers or renters or sellers, but will be directed at people who own vacant properties. What should you do, right? If you own a HDB, just a recap, if you own a HDB, you might want to sell if you are already considering on selling. It's even better if you can somehow afford to sell one and buy two, because the property market with the global supply crisis will continue to go up. If you're buying, prepare to stay more than 10 years to make that hefty cost upfront worth it. If you're buying an OCR condo, if you're selling an OCR condo, it would be great if you are selling your current one and moving to a bigger one, or you can sell one and buy two to tap on the buoyant market again. If you're a buyer, buy undervalued ECs. Don't be too picky. Don't be overly picky, because there are not a lot of units available out there. For RCR, buy only if they're near good schools and they have large spaces. The units are very large units themselves. Because if they top up a little more, you can actually buy CCR condos if you buy a small unit. You can actually go back to OCR condos, which are really in vogue and will probably sustain a lot better than RCR condos. CCR, Singapore's development is still very, very good. Economic growth is still fantastic. If you buy today, prepare to hold until 2025. That's where most of the developments downtown will happen. Orchard will be rejuvenated. Marina will be fantastic. Greater Southern Waterfront will be up and operational. Hence, that's when you can take fantastic profits. Landed, sell if you like the price that the buyer is offering you. But be very careful if you're buying. If you're buying, are you paying for the landed or are you paying for the construction? Recently, just based on the landed prices, I noticed that buyers are paying up to 40% of the purchase price for the building alone, not necessarily just for the land sitting below it. So if you're paying 40%, which can cost you near $2 million in cash, so you're paying $2 million for a building, ask yourself 10 years down the road, is that building still worth $2 million? Or are you buying it for your own vanity? So if you're buying it for your own use, you think that building is worth $2 million. The construction cost, paying $2 million at an all-time when there's a global construction crisis, to pay for a piece of construction, to pay for all-time high for a piece of construction when there's a construction crisis makes sense to you, then go ahead. However, regardless of whatever you do in the property market today, plan really well, calculate well before you move. Feel free to call me for a personalized consultation, because there's never any two properties that are the same, and no one is ever in the same situation as you. Everyone needs a personalized service, a personalized consultation that can best fit you. My number, it's all at the bottom. My website is at the bottom as well. You can feel free to contact me there. And please like and subscribe, and thank you so much for your time today. Have a good weekend.